Alright, well, we're working on an '01 Isuzu Rodeo, and I got this ultra power fuel pump from Rock Auto. Now that's what that little guy looks like. I've got it ready to go in. I put the gasket on there on the top already, and I installed this little float assembly, and you just get that float and click it in there. One of the details that I need to go over about this is that on the inside, the plug is the same on the Ultra Power, okay? But on the outside, the plug is a little different. So we're going to have a look at that. And this is just a pressure sensor here. We don't need to mess with that. But the Ultra Power came with this plug to splice in. I'm going to cut the old plug off and add this one to it. This is what happens when you get the cheapest pump you could get out of the whole deal. Alright, so that's what the plug looks like. The one that came out. Alright. Can't even get it to show in there, but anyway, that's what it looks like. And of course on this side it looks the same as the Ultra Power one. But just this pin out up here is the way it plugs in. It's just a little different, so we're going to have a look at that. Alright, so this is the plug that's on the car. Got an obvious ground, okay, and it looks like there's going to be a couple of wires here. One of them is going to be for power to the fuel pump. One of them is going to be the signal wire for the fuel level sending unit, okay? So two of them will connect to it. I know one of them, in the book, it says one of them is a signal wire. So we'll figure out which one is what here in just a minute. I've got a test meter. I'm going to figure it out. Alright, so the first one that I've checked out goes in the bottom left position on this side. Okay. And the signal wire that corresponds with it is the one in the front here on this fuel level sending unit. The corresponding wire for that is going to be this one here. The orange with the green stripe, okay? So that's the bottom left corner according to how it plugs in. And that's how we're going to splice it. So let me get that cut and spliced. Alright, so I've checked the next wire, and it's in the opposite corner, or the top right position here. You look at the way the wires go in there, it's the opposite corner there, so it's working out fine on that. On this here, the opposite corner is going to be this blue, this light blue and yellow wire. It's a blue with a yellow stripe. Alright, so that goes to the other part of the signal wire for the fuel level sending unit. And it's going to be this orange with a black stripe. Now, I don't know how much any of this makes sense. I'm just connecting it so that it'll work. There's a diagram here with some information on here. In this one here, of course, it says what the colors are supposed to be. I'm just matching them up the best I can and going a little bit off of this chart. I really don't like it that much, so. But I'm just connecting them up. Obviously, the gray wire is going to be the pump power, and the ground's going to be the black. That's how it's working out. That's the wires for the pump. The other two wires are for the fuel level sending unit. I don't care what color they are. So just connect them up. And this one has a stripe in it, so it's going to be the black stripe. It's going to be for the ground. That kind of works into standard colored coding. Power wire is going to have a solid color. So anyway, I'm stripping these wires with an Ideal Strip Master. I don't know if you ever used one of these, but this is the way to go. It's a good tool and it works real good. I'm using that, and then of course the crimp tool I'm using is just pretty much a standard style crimp tool. I think it's a Klein crimp tool. User adjusted tension. If you crimp it too much, it falls apart. If you don't crimp it enough, it falls apart. So you just have to know what you're doing with this crimp tool, obviously. Alright, let's get this connected. So when I install these crimps in there, what I do is I hold it in the tool and I try to keep the crimp side on the same side as the other crimp, okay? And you want to get it about right there. Not exactly in the middle, but just a little bit off of the end, enough so that when you crimp it, you're not crushing the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to slide this thing in there. I like to hold the wire with the tool like this and slide it in there like that. And when you get that wire to go in there, if any of those wires peel back, well, you take it off and fix it. You don't want to have wires pushing back and being all nasty. But I think I'll have to use two hands. So you guys just gonna have to take this for granted. I got it right. That's how you do it. That's how I do it. That's just a tip, okay? I don't think anybody can see that wire, but that wire is, there we go. Both of them are crimped on the same side. The insulation is not crimped. And when I put that wire in there, I don't twist it up. You want it to be straight. You're not supposed to twist it up. That's what the wiring school says when you go to school and they teach you how to do this. You're not supposed to twist wires and shove them in. So that's how it looks. I'm going to get a heat gun and I'm going to shrink these. I know we've got a gas tank right here. You have to be real careful about electrical appliances around this stuff. I have a fan blowing on it constantly, and of course I'm outside. But if you have gas everywhere, it's probably going to be something you're not going to be able to use a heat gun with until you get your area clear. So that's how this thing goes together. It's pretty simple coming out. Just take out about 5 bolts or so. I tried to disconnect this vent thing here, but that hose was stuck on there so good that I disconnected the other end, in which this end was metal. It's a lot easier to deal with. This is the fuel fill hose here. I just disconnected those and set it on the ground. I didn't jack it up too high, but I got the rear wheel about that high off the ground with the rear end hanging. And of course the front end's quite a bit higher. But I set the fuel tank on the ground. And if you release the wires, the electrical wires, and those little green clips hold the fuel lines, if you release those before you get it all the way down, it easily sets down. There might be a gallon of gas in it. I recommend to drain it all the way if you can. Otherwise you'll need to get a jack or something to hold it, because it'll fall down and somebody get hurt. So that's kind of a few notes and ideas about this fuel pump. I'm not going to show installing it. That's a two-hand job, and if you're this far along, I'm sure you can figure it out. It's not that hard. I will make a note here about this. Most fuel pumps, if not all of them, have a little alignment key. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right there, there's a little alignment key. It lines up in that little slot right there, okay? You don't get that in there, it's not going to work good. I grease my O-rings before I put it together. That's just my thing. You can use silicone or regular grease. Just try not to get a bunch of it inside the gas tank. This one is spring-loaded, obviously. So you want to get it down and get that little notch lined up like this, and slide this little metal ring around to activate the catches so that it holds it in place. And it's just barely holding now. But you got to get a hammer and a long screwdriver and kind of slowly tap around on these edges here, back edges here, to click that into place. I'm going to connect my lines and my wires and test it before I put it back up, just to make sure everything is good. Always test it. You don't want to put this thing back in there and find out there's some kind of problem with the wires. Okay, we don't want to do that. Alright? Alright, so I got it on there with a little bit of hitting with the screwdriver and a hammer. I don't have that tool. There's this tool, some kind of funny tool you stick on there and turn that, but I don't have that, so we're not worried about it. It's all good. These are the fuel lines. This is what they look like. Probably not getting too good of a look because of the sunlight, but that's what they look like. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze it on these little blue tabs. Now, I would say that there's an O-ring in there, and that you need to put a little bit of silicone on these to make sure that when it slides together, it needs a little bit of lube, and so that's what I'm going to do. Put a little bit of lube on there, just like that. Easy peasy, man. All O-rings and rubber seals and things like that need some kind of lube when they go together, or you got problems. So we got two different sizes. You can't mess that up, okay? The small one goes in the small spot, and the big one goes in the big spot. You can't get it any easier than that. These lines are just kind of flagged down. When I get the tank lined up a little better, get it jacked up some, I'll be able to click it into these spots. I took them out before I dropped it. And I'm going to test this thing out and have a good look at it and make sure we're good. Start it up, as a matter of fact. So y'all have a good day and take it easy. I hope I helped somebody. If you have any questions, just give me a holler and ask. Alright, well, I've got this thing wrapped up pretty good, and I got it taped and all that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tie this off with some Nomex wire tying tape. And this is something that I learned long ago, and I use this instead of zip ties on a lot of things. And it's kind of a tricky knot, but if you pay close attention here, you'll get an idea about how to do it. Put it through there like that. Okay. And there you go. Better than the tie strap in a big way. And then you tie a square knot on top of it, and you're done. And you can put tension on it as tight or as loose as you like. That's what I do on mine. This is just the extra thing that I do on my friends' cars that I work on. I do a little bit of an extra job and do some extra work on it that puts my signature on there. So that's how it is. That's how it should be with all work. But I learned this long ago building panels for Schlumberger, and I used it once again for Texas Instruments, and that's a common lacing knot there, and that's how it looks when it's all done. It's nice and pretty. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that in. Have a good day.